Last week I shared with you a story about losing my head. I guess in actuality I lost my Bob Ross bobblehead's head and then went through several steps in order to get that lost item back. And we talked about how that is the way God is. God will go through every possible step just so that we will not be lost. And we looked at three parables to confirm that. We looked at the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost son, and the parable of the lost coin. Well, this week I want to flip that coin over and look and see what our response should be to God's love for us. How we should be just so that we can obtain heaven. And to do that, I want to look at a couple of more parables. Matthew chapter 13, verses 45 through 46 says this, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value went and sold all that he had and bought it." And then there's another parable that's right along with that one that talks about a treasure that a man found hidden in the field. And he went and sold all that he had in order to be able to buy that field and obtain the treasure. As we look at these parables, we're looking at some really powerful statements. But to be honest with you, these parables have always been difficult to me. I think the difficulty stems from when I was a teenager, and I had a speaker at one of my camps put this in perspective for me. And he said that this selling everything that they owned could have even meant that this man sold his family in order to obtain it. Now that puts it in a lot different perspective, doesn't it? The point is, of course, that Jesus was making some very powerful statements about how much our desire should be to enter the kingdom of heaven, how much we should want that. I think often we take these parables for granted, maybe because they're short and sweet, but maybe it is that we don't think in those terms of having something that we so desperately want that we're willing to give up everything, including our families, for it. So do this for me. Think of something that is the most precious to you. Would you give up everything to have that or keep it? It's a sobering thought. Yet Jesus gives us multiple examples of how that should be our mindset, how that should be our desire to give up everything just so that we can get to the kingdom of heaven and be with him for eternity. The fact is, heaven is beyond our comprehension. Yet we have to do just that to get it. We have to give up everything, not just our homes, our possessions. What if it's our family if it comes to that? The question is, are you willing to give that price to obtain heaven? That is the mindset that we have got to have. But let me make this a little bit easier on us. There's one thing that you need to understand as we look at these parables. While we are called to pay this price, God does something else that's actually beyond our comprehension. Once we give up all, he turns right around and gives it right back to us, but he gives it back even better. If God is our priority, our family reaps the benefits of something that is infinitely better. Our relationships are better in that family. We're more loving. We're more caring. We're much, much closer. We feel better about our money because money doesn't mean as much as having God in our lives. And the same goes with our homes. When you think about it, the fact is, if we are willing to give up everything in order to obtain heaven, we've got to upgrade in our homecoming, don't we? So the question is, have you sold out for God? Have you sold out for His kingdom? I hope we all have. Thank you for taking 6 minutes to center with me today.